Hello, community, and welcome back to another Keeping It Real with Dr. Anita podcast. I am your host, Dr. Anita Polite Wilson, C-Suite Trusted Advisor, Board Director, and Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging Consultant, helping members of the C-Suite and their teams reframe diversity conversations from difficult to different. It is the month of October, Halloween, and we are looking at what's scary about diversity, inclusion, and belonging work. This is our final real conversation from the C-Suite with an amazing panel. If you missed our first two conversations, you have got to go back into the archives and find them. I've got Dr. Catrena Elliot, a senior HR business partner with a Fortune 100 retail company. Mr. Dwayne Robertson, he is a DEI strategist and head of YPO's Diversity and Inclusion Office. YPO stands for Young Presidents Organization, which is a global network. Mr. Jerry Gonzales, the Executive Vice President and Chief People and Administrative Officer at Abode Communities. And finally, Mr. Gaurav Goel is the Vice President of Global Operations of the Neurovascular Business Unit at Medtronic. Welcome back, panel. It's great to have you for our final conversation. The last one is always bittersweet because it's our last time together, but it always ends up just wrapping everything very nicely. So welcome back, everybody.
You'll just have to invite us back, Dr. Anita.
Oh, of course. Well, we've already established the fact that Dr. Catrena might be, co-hosting or just filling in next time. So, anytime y'all want to come back and lead the conversation, be my guest. So in our last conversation, you each gave your thoughts about what's scary about the trend in organizations deprioritizing DEI work to the point of actually eliminating the role of Chief Diversity Officer. But we did leave on a high note and we left with some hope for the future. So the question of the hour, panel, is this. What is one takeaway that you have for organizations that still consider DEI work to be scary? And whoever wants to start, the rest of us will follow.
Hi, this is Dr. Catrena. I'll start with this one. So the organizations out there that feel that the work is still scary, I have to say start with awareness. Start threading, being very intentional with awareness of self, awareness of biases, awareness what are on people's hearts and thoughts, understanding your associates, your employees' lived experience thus far. So really slowing down enough and go through an awareness journey. And once you complete that awareness journey, then you step into action, right? And that have to be intentional and well thought out. I think it also includes bringing people along. So having committees throughout your organization in different, whether it's different states, whether it's global, and really hear from the associations, from the employees. We had one of the panelists talk about ERGs, and I think that's extremely important when it comes to DEI as well. So that is also a part of the awareness journey, who will help you take it further when you get to the action stage.
I appreciate that. When you talk about what's, the reason, Simon Sinek, and I say this often, he's always encouraging us to figure out our why. I am trying to take a different tack and get companies to look at what's your why not. There's so much data out there to prove that this is a good thing for business as well as taking care of your people. So I need organizations to think about and get serious about and be honest about what is your why not. Is it because you don't want to change the policies, the procedures, the practices? Is it that you don't want to face what your organizational belief system is coming up against? And you talk about appreciating the lived experiences of the folks that are in your organization. Too often we want to start with employee engagement, but actually employee engagement as a result of employee experiences. What an employee experiences will determine their engagement, which determines how sustainable your workforce is, which determines the positive impacts to your bottom line. So Dr. Catrena, you're absolutely right. We really need to consider people's lived experiences, especially their experiences in the workplace. Who wants to jump on a piece of this conversation?
I'll just jump on what Dr. Catrena has said is, I think people or the companies and everyone need to understand, everyone wants their culture to be the best. The employees, when they come in, to bring their best self, right? And be able to have the belonging. Nobody can deny that, right? No, everybody wants that. Everybody wants inclusion, right? and leaders understand. I think we have to change the message a little bit. We just feel that this diversity piece is taking away something from someone and giving it to somebody else, right? That's what it has become. That's where the scary part is.
Yes.
We just have to change the narrative. Nobody is doing that. It's about giving the opportunity, and diversity could mean a different for an African American person and an immigrant who came from, Mexico, who cannot speak enough English, or China. I have a global team. I see that inclusion needs to be done everywhere, but you have to understand, be aware of your biases and the challenges the individual is facing, include them in the conversation. I think that's how we kind of share that piece is important. So the messaging from the top is very important on how we do that. I can also, anybody who wants to hear, I'll tell you, it works results wise, culture, and it gives you business outcomes. It gives you better innovation, better business outcomes. We have seen this. It's been researched to death. So I don't know why people won't do it. So I think why not is a great Dr. Anita is a great one to say that why would you not do it if you do it right. I think doing it right is where companies struggle when trying to check the box. They're trying to over-index and then kind of, oh, that didn't work. So doing it right is, and that's why it's scary that if somebody says chief diversity and inclusion officers are not going to be there, because they create that environment and they are the kind of initially, until we get the momentum, are the custodians for that. So yeah, that's, I know in the interest of time, I think that's my 2 cents here.
Are you kidding? That was like $2 million worth. And can I get an amen? You said a lot of good stuff right there. I don't know who wants to follow that, Jerry or Dwayne. Be my guest.
Sure, I'll go. I mean, I think what's still scary about a lot of organizations globally is they start from a place of, where do I even start? Where do I even begin, right? And oftentimes the incorrect way that a large organization or any organization will think about this is, well, let's hire a chief diversity officer, because that'll make the problem go away. This one person with no staff, not a budget, is going to impact the whole culture of the organization. And the reality that I always tell people is 2 things. One is, don't lose the plot. When you start from, if you want to do this diversity, equity, inclusion work, it really is about focusing on your race equity work first. That is kind of the foundation of where you need to really look at your organization. And the second thing that I always teach people, as I came up as a learning and development specialist, was when you leave this room where we've done this amazing training, like, what's one small act? What's one small thing that you're going to do when you get back to your desk that is true to the thing that you learned today? Because if you can do that one thing, then the next thing becomes a little bit easier. And you can make that commitment as an individual, or you can make that as a commitment as a collective of 3, 5, or 15 people. And as you do more of those things, you start to see that it becomes a lot less scary.
I love that. So succinct and so practical. So, Dwayne, to wrap it up for our community, what's the one takeaway you have for organizations who still see DEI as something scary?
I think everyone that spoke before me are all collectively hard acts to follow, but I'll just add this, and this is from my conversations I've had with many CEOs and senior leaders, that a lot of times they're afraid to do this work because they're afraid they're going to do something wrong.
Yes.
And I say that mistakes come with the territory, especially if you're trying something new. And it's not about necessarily making the mistake. It's about how you handle that mistake. If you handle that mistake with sincerity and you show that you're willing to learn from it and involve the key stakeholders to get their voices involved in the process, that is the most important thing. You can't be afraid of making mistakes, because in all other aspects of what an organization does or that particular person does in their role of responsibilities, they make mistakes, but they use that as an opportunity to learn. And I'll just say, well, when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion work, we should all have the same type of outlook and attitude.
Yes, I echo your sentiment in that everyone had something so rich to share. But I have to say, I think that summarizes everything quite beautifully. Expect to have missteps along your journey. And as long as you're learning something from it, and as long as you share that learning experience in a way that's appropriate and encourages other people to show up with bravery and courage along the journey, you'll be just fine. Panel, I want to thank you. having these types of discussions is what keeps me coming back, because the work is personable, it's personal, and it can be daunting. But conversations like these fill my cup and give me the courage and bravery and strength to go on. So I want to thank each of you, Dr. Catrena Elliot, Mr. Dwayne Robertson, Mr. Jerry Gonzales, and Mr. Gaurav Goel. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I'm serious. If I tap you on the shoulder to host so that I can take a break, please don't say no. Community, I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you listen to Dr. Catrena and really reflect. I hope that you listened to all of our leaders and took something away, like Jerry said, that you can actually apply. Like Dwayne said, don't be afraid to not get it right. And like Mr. Goel said, there's hope. We can do this. So thank you for joining me for a very special look at my annual What's Scary About Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging work. I hope the only thing that scares you this Halloween is the amount of calories that you consumed on October 31st. And if you want to hear this conversation again or any of my previous podcasts, please check out my website, dranita.com. Spell out the word doctor at the top in the center. Click on the link that says Keeping It Real Podcast. You can also check out my services and my programs. And please get in the flow, follow, like, and overshare this conversation or any of my previous podcasts that help you to reframe diversity conversations from difficult to different. Wow. The work doesn't have to be scary.
Right.
And continue to strive to stay blessed and keep it real. Thanks,
Dr. Anita,
panel.
thank you so much.
Thanks, Dr.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much.
I'm inspired by this conversation with the three of you.
Absolutely.
This was incredible. And don't be surprised if I try to make this an annual panel with all of you, because I tend to do that. Thank you again so much for investing your time. It is 1:00. Have an amazing weekend and bless you for your service.
It's a pleasure
Honored.
meeting everyone
Thank you so much.
for your
Pleasure
contribution.
meeting all of you.